The stars had always been quiet. For 800 years, humanity spread across the galaxy, building colonies on distant worlds, and never once did they find another intelligent species. Scientists debated whether humans were alone in the universe. Philosophers wondered if consciousness was rare. Children grew up reading stories about aliens that never seemed to exist. Then the Valkyrie came, and everything changed. Captain Nathan Cole stood on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, watching the empty space ahead of him. He was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face marked by decades of service. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion when he was young. He had lost friends in the Saturn Station riots. He thought he had seen everything the universe had to offer. He was wrong. "Captain, we're receiving an emergency signal from Kepler 442b, said Lieutenant Kyle Morrison, the young tactical officer. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking slightly as he worked the console. Cole turned. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered, and then they saw it. Fire, smoke, buildings collapsing. And in the sky above the colony, 12 massive ships that looked nothing like anything humans had ever built. They were dark purple, shaped like curved blades, and they were firing beams of bright plasma down at the surface. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She was covered in dust and blood, her uniform torn. Behind her, people were screaming and running. "This is Lieutenant Amy Brooks of Kepler Colony 7, she said, her voice breaking. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces." They came without warning. They didn't try to communicate. They just started shooting. 3 domed cities are already destroyed. Thousands are dead. We need immediate assistance. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. The transmission cut to static. The bridge of the Resolute Dawn went completely silent. Every officer stared at the screen, trying to understand what they had just seen. For 800 years, humanity had dreamed of meeting alien life. Nobody had imagined it would happen like this. Commander Lisa Tran, the first officer, was the first to speak. "Orders, Captain?" Cole's face showed no emotion. He had learned long ago to keep his feelings hidden during a crisis. Inside, his heart was pounding. Outside, he was as still as stone. "Contact Earth Command," he said. "Send them everything we just received. And get me every piece of information we have about these ships." The Valkyrie Dominion had existed for 12,000 years. They had conquered 42 species across the galaxy. Their method was always the same: arrive at a new world, demonstrate overwhelming power, and wait for surrender. Every species they had encountered had followed the same pattern. They would resist briefly, realize they could not win, and then accept their place as servants of the Dominion. Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony burn below. He was tall and thin, with dark blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face. His uniform was covered in medals from dozens of successful conquests. "How long until they surrender?" asked his second officer. Zethrak clicked his teeth together, a sound that passed for laughter among his people. "A few hours at most. Primitive species always break quickly. They have no concept of true power. The survivors are still transmitting signals," the communications officer reported. "Let them," Zethrak said. "Let their homeworld know what happens to those who expand into Dominion space. Fear is a useful tool." He walked to the large window at the front of his bridge and looked down at the burning planet. 2,000 humans had died in the first hour of bombardment. Zethrak did not feel guilt. He did not feel anything at all. This was simply how the universe worked. The strong ruled, and the weak served. On the surface of Kepler 442b, Amy Brooks was still alive. She had been in the communications center when the attack began. The first plasma blast had hit the agricultural dome 3 kilometers away. She had watched through the window as the entire structure collapsed, killing hundreds of farmers and their families in seconds. Now she was hiding in the basement of a destroyed building with 37 other survivors. They had no weapons. They had no way to fight back. All they could do was hide and hope that someone would come to save them. "What do we do now?" asked a young man named Peter Grant. He was 20 years old, an engineering student who had come to the colony for a summer internship. His face was pale with fear. Amy looked at him. She looked at all of them. Farmers, scientists, children, ordinary people who had never expected to face anything like this. "We survive," she said. "We stay hidden. We stay quiet. And we wait. Wait for what?" Peter asked. Amy thought about Earth. She thought about the billions of humans spread across 17 worlds. She thought about the history of her species, the wars, the struggles, the countless times humanity had faced impossible odds and refused to give up. "Help is coming," she said. "I don't know when. I don't know how. But I know my people. They won't abandon us." Far away, on the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Captain Cole received a response from Earth Command. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. "What does it say?" Commander Tran asked. Cole looked up at his crew. His face was still calm, but there was something new in his eyes. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. "The United Earth Coalition has unanimously declared war on the Volcari Dominion," he said. "Every member nation, every colony, every ship. We are authorized to take any action necessary to defend humanity and rescue our people." Morrison let out a low whistle. That was fast. Less than 6 hours since the attack. "The coalition doesn't waste time when its people are threatened," Tran said. Cole turned back to the main screen, where the purple ship still hung in orbit above the burning colony. The Valkyrie didn't know it yet, but they had just made the worst mistake of their 12,000-year history. They had attacked humanity. They had expected fear. They had expected surrender. They had expected another easy conquest to add to their collection. They were going to learn that humans were different. Cole allowed himself a small smile. "Send a message to the fleet," he said. "Tell them to prepare for combat operations. And someone start a file on these Valkyrie. I want to know everything about them. Their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses." "Yes, Captain," Morrison said. The war had begun. And humanity was going to show the galaxy exactly what it was capable of. Commander Zethrak waited patiently in orbit above Kepler 442b. 3 days had passed since the attack. His communications officers monitored human frequencies constantly, waiting for the surrender message that always came. It never arrived. Instead, they intercepted something strange. A formal document, transmitted on all frequencies, signed by representatives of every human government. Zethrak had his translators decoded immediately. "What does it say?" he asked. His communications officer hesitated. "Sir, they have declared war on us." Zethrak's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "War? They are declaring war on the Dominion?" "Yes, Commander." For a long moment, Zethrak said nothing. Then he began to click his teeth together in deep, genuine laughter. Several of his officers joined him. The sound echoed through the bridge like stones rattling in a metal container. "These creatures are insane," Zethrak said finally. "They've seen our power. They have watched their people die. And their response is to threaten us?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Contact the High Council. Tell them the humans are being difficult. Request permission for full subjugation. On Earth." The response to the attack was unlike anything in human history. Admiral Patricia Webb stood in the command center of the Pentagon, watching reports come in from every corner of human space. She was 61 years old, a career military officer who had never expected to fight an alien enemy. Now she was organizing the largest military mobilization in 800 years. "Status report," she said, thought her aide. A young officer named Chris Palmer pulled up a holographic display. "Every shipyard in the coalition is now operating at full capacity. Civilian cargo vessels are being retrofitted with weapon systems. Recruitment centers are flooded with volunteers." "How many?" Webb asked. 3 million in the first 48 hours, Admiral. We're having trouble processing them all." Webb nodded slowly. She was not surprised. Humans had spent centuries fighting each other. Wars had torn the species apart again and again. But when an outside threat appeared, when something attacked all of humanity, the old divisions disappeared instantly. "What about our science teams?" she asked. "Dr. Henry Ross is leading the analysis of the enemy weapons," Palmer said. "He believes he's found something important." Webb raised an eyebrow. "Bring him in." Dr. Henry Ross was not a military man. He was a physicist from Nevada who had spent his career studying theoretical propulsion systems. He was 50 years old, slightly overweight, and he hated wearing suits. When he entered the command center, he was carrying a tablet computer and looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Admiral Webb," he said, "I've been studying the combat footage from Kepler 442b. I think I understand how their weapons work." "And?" Ross pulled up a diagram on the main display. "Their plasma cannons are powerful, yes, but they're predictable. They fire in straight lines with almost no variation. Their targeting systems follow simple patterns. Their fleet formations are rigid and never change." Webb studied the diagram. "You're saying they fight by rules?" "Exactly. They've been conquering weaker species for thousands of years. They've never faced a real opponent. They've never had to adapt." Ross smiled slightly. "Admiral, they're bullies. Strong, yes, but they've never been in a real fight. And humans have been fighting each other for 10,000 years, Webb said. We've refined warfare into a science. We've developed tactics they've never seen. Strategies they can't imagine." Ross put down his tablet. "If we're smart about this, we can beat them." Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Palmer. "Get me the fleet commanders. All of them. We're going to plan the first battle very carefully." On Kepler 442b, Amy Brooks was turning the survivors into a resistance force. It had been 2 weeks since the attack. The Valkyrie had landed ground troops to occupy what remained of the colony. They expected the humans to be broken, defeated, ready to serve. They did not understand humans at all. Amy had organized the survivors into small cells. They moved through the ruins at night, gathering supplies, mapping Valkyrie patrol routes, and building weapons from whatever they could find. A young engineer named Peter Grant had figured out how to disable Valkyrie communication devices. A former chemistry teacher had started making explosives from agricultural chemicals. "We can't fight them directly," Amy told her people, "but we can make their lives difficult. We can slow them down. We can show them that humans don't give up." An older man named George Bell, a farmer who had lost his entire family in the attack, spoke up. "How long do we wait?" Amy looked at him. His eyes were hard with grief and anger. She understood exactly how he felt. "Until rescue comes," she said. "And rescue will come. I promise you that. How can you be sure?" Amy thought about Earth. She thought about the message she had received on a hidden radio. 3 days ago, a simple transmission that said only, "We're coming." "Hold on, because that's who we are," she said. "We don't leave our people behind, ever." Back in space, Captain Nathan Cole and the Resolute Dawn had been watching the Valkyrie fleet for weeks. They stayed hidden in the asteroid field at the edge of the system, observing, gathering information, and waiting for orders. Commander Lisa Tran approached him on the bridge. "Captain, we've detected movement. The Valkyrie fleet is leaving orbit." Cole straightened. Where are they going? Based on their heading, they're moving toward Earth's solar system. Cole felt his jaw tighten. The enemy was getting impatient. They were going to try to force a quick surrender by threatening humanity's homeworld. "Contact Admiral Webb," he said. "Tell her the enemy is on the move." An hour later, he received new orders. The coalition was ready. The first battle would take place at the edge of the solar system. In the cold darkness beyond Pluto. Cole gathered his bridge crew. "We've been watching these aliens for weeks. We've studied their weapons, their tactics, their formation patterns. Now we're going to use everything we've learned." "Sir, they have 12 ships," Morrison said. "We're one ship." "We won't be alone," Cole replied. "The coalition has assembled 47 vessels. They'll meet us at the Oort cloud." He paused. "This is going to be humanity's first battle against an alien enemy. We need to win. Not just for Earth, but for all those colonists still trapped on Kepler 442b. Tran nodded. "They're counting on us." Cole turned to the main screen. Somewhere out there, Annie Brooks and the other survivors were waiting, hoping, trusting that humanity would come for them. He was not going to let them down. "Set course for the Oort cloud," he ordered. "Maximum speed. It's time to show the Valkyrie what humans can do." The engines of the Resolute Dawn roared to life, and the ship jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, the occupied colony grew smaller until it disappeared entirely. But they would be back. They would all be back, and when they returned, the Valkyrie would learn a lesson they would never forget. The edge of the solar system was cold and dark. Billions of ice chunks floated silently in the void, remnants from the birth of the sun. It was here, in the Oort cloud, that humanity prepared to make its stand. Captain Nathan Cole watched his tactical display as the coalition fleet assembled around him. 47 ships had answered the call. Some were military vessels, built for combat. Others were civilian freighters hastily equipped with weapons. A few were old patrol boats that should have been retired years ago. Against them came 12 Valkyrie warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Their dark purple hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Their weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. Commander Lisa Tran stood beside Cole, studying the enemy formation. "They're not even trying to hide their approach. They think this will be easy." "Good," Cole said. "Let them think that." On the Valkyrie flagship, Commander Zethrak examined the human fleet with his 4 eyes. He felt something close to pity for these creatures. They had assembled everything they had, and it still looked pathetic compared to his force. "Commander," his tactical officer said, "the human formation is unusual." "I cannot identify the pattern." Zethrak waved dismissively. "It doesn't matter. Open a channel. I will give them one chance to surrender." Cole's communications console beeped. He nodded to Morrison, who put the incoming message on screen. Zethrak's alien face appeared, his 4 eyes blinking in what might have been amusement. "Human Commander, I am Zethrak of the Valkyrie Dominion. You have assembled an impressive collection of primitive vessels. It changes nothing. Surrender now, and I will allow some of your people to live as servants of the Dominion." Cole leaned back in his chair. His face showed no fear, no anger, only calm certainty. "Commander Zethrak, I'm going to give you one chance to withdraw your forces and return our colonists. This offer expires in 60 seconds. Zethrak's eyes widened in surprise. Then he began clicking his teeth together in harsh laughter. "You threaten me? You, with your primitive ships and primitive weapons? Your species truly does not understand its position." 50 seconds, Cole replied. "Very well." Zethrak's amusement faded. "You have chosen extinction. All ships target the human fleet. Fire at will." The Valkyrie warships moved forward, their plasma cannons charging with bright energy. The space between the two fleets began to glow as targeting systems locked on. Then humanity showed the Valkyrie what 10,000 years of warfare had taught them. Execute pattern Delta. Cole ordered calmly. The human fleet scattered. But it wasn't chaos, it was precision. Ships moved in coordinated groups, each one knowing exactly where to go. The Valkyrie plasma bolts, aimed at where the human ships had been, passed harmlessly through empty space. Electronic countermeasures. Now, Cole said. Lieutenant Morrison pressed a button. And suddenly, the Valkyrie sensor screens went crazy. False signals appeared everywhere. Their targeting computers couldn't distinguish real ships from phantom images. What is happening? Zethrak demanded. Where are the human ships? His officers scrambled at their consoles, trying to make sense of the confusion. In 12,000 years of conquest, nothing like this had ever happened. Their equipment had always worked. Their enemies had always stood still and died, while the Valkyrie struggled with their sensors. The human fleet attacked. They came from 3 directions at once, using the ice chunks of the Oort cloud as cover. Their missiles split into dozens of independent warheads, overwhelming the enemy point defense systems. Their energy weapons targeted the exact frequencies of Valkyrie. Shield's frequencies that Dr. Ross had identified from the Kepler 442b. Attack footage. The first Valkyrie ship exploded in a ball of purple flame. Then the second. Then the third. This is impossible, Zethrak whispered. His flagship shuddered as a human missile struck his lower hull. Captain Cole's voice came over the communication channel, calm and controlled. Commander Zethrak, your shields are failing. Your weapons are jammed. 3 of your ships are already destroyed. You can still accept my offer and withdraw. Zethrak stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How had this happened? The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be easy. They were supposed to fear the mighty Valkyrie Dominion. Instead, they were winning. All ships retreat. Zethrak screamed. Fall back to Dominion space. But most of his ships couldn't retreat. Human vessels surrounded them, cutting off escape routes. Missiles continued to strike from every direction. Plasma cannons that had been designed to destroy cities now exploded uselessly in the void as human. Countermeasures disabled them. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 9 Valkyrie ships drifted dead in space. Their hulls torn open and their crews dead. 2 more had surrendered when their commanders realized the situation was hopeless. Only Zethrak's flagship, badly damaged, managed to escape into hyperspace. On the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, Lieutenant Morrison checked his displays twice before reporting. Captain, enemy fleet destroyed or captured. Human casualties, 12 wounded, 0 fatalities. Commander Tran exhaled slowly. We actually did it. Cole allowed himself a small smile. We did exactly what humans have always done. We fought smarter, not harder. He stood up and looked at the main screen, where debris from the Valkyrie ships floated among the ice of the Oort cloud. This was just the beginning. The Dominion would send more ships. They would be angry, afraid, and desperate to prove their superiority. But they had lost something today that they could never get back. They had lost the belief that they were unbeatable. Send a message to the Dominion High Council, Cole ordered. Tell them we're coming to collect our people. Tell them that if they want a war, we're happy to educate them on how humans fight. Morrison nodded and began typing across human space. News of the victory spread like wildfire. On Earth, people danced in the streets. On Mars, colonists raised glasses in celebration. On every station and ship in the coalition, humans cheered for the first time since the attack on Kepler-442b. They had faced an ancient enemy that had conquered dozens of species. And they had won. On the occupied colony, Amy Brooks heard the news through her hidden radio. She gathered the survivors together in their underground shelter, tears streaming down her face. "They did it," she told them. "Our fleet defeated the Valkyrie. Help is coming." Peter Grant stood up, his eyes bright with hope. "When?" "Soon, very soon." Amy smiled, the first real smile she had managed in weeks. "I told you we wouldn't be abandoned. I told you that's not who we are." The survivors cheered, their voices echoing off the concrete walls. Above them, the Valkyrie occupation forces had no idea what was about to happen. Humanity was coming, and they were bringing war. The Valkyrie Dominion had never known defeat. For 12,000 years, they had conquered everything in their path. They had built an empire on the broken bodies of 42 species. They had never imagined that a primitive race from a small blue planet could hurt them. Now they knew fear. Commander Zethrak stood before the High Council, his uniform torn and his body still wounded from the battle. The council chamber was vast, filled with the oldest and most powerful members of Valkyrie society. Their 4 eyes stared down at him with cold fury. "You lost," the High Counselor said. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You took 12 warships against a primitive species, and you lost." Zethrak lowered his head. "They were not what we expected, High Counselor. Their tactics were unlike anything in our records. Their weapons were more effective than our analysis predicted." "Excuses." The High Counselor rose from his seat. "The Dominion has never been defeated. This cannot be allowed to stand. We will mobilize the entire fleet. 600 warships. We will crush these humans and scatter their ashes across the void." The other council members clicked their teeth in approval. Far away, Admiral Patricia Webb received intelligence reports about the Valkyrie mobilization. She stood in the command center on Earth, surrounded by her senior officers and advisors. 600 ships, she said quietly. They're pulling forces from across their empire. Captain Cole, who had returned to Earth after the battle, studied the tactical display. "They're angry and scared." "That's good. Angry enemies make mistakes." 600 ships is still a lot of mistakes to survive, Commander Tran pointed out. Webb nodded. "We can't fight them head on." "Not yet." "So we won't." She turned to the display and began marking targets. "We're going to hit them everywhere at once. 5 strike groups, attacking 5 different locations simultaneously. We'll destroy their supply lines, eliminate their forward bases, and show the galaxy that the Dominion isn't as powerful as everyone believes." Dr. Henry Ross stepped forward. "Admiral, I've been analyzing data from the captured Valkyrie ships. Their subject species, the 42 civilizations they've conquered, they're not loyal. They're afraid. If we show them that the Dominion can be beaten, some of them might rebel." "Then let's give them a reason to rebel," Webb said. She looked around the room. "Strike groups will depart in 48 hours. Captain Cole, you're leading Strike Group 3. Your target is the Valkyrie shipyards at Nexus Prime." Cole straightened. "Understood, Admiral. One more thing." Webb's voice hardened. "Strike Group 2 will liberate Kepler-4 42b. Those colonists have waited long enough. On Kepler-4 42b, Amy Brooks had been fighting for 3 months. Her resistance force had grown from 37 survivors to over 200. They had learned to move through the ruins like ghosts, striking Valkyrie patrols and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. They had destroyed supply depots, disabled communication towers, and made the occupation forces paranoid and exhausted. But they were running out of time. Food was scarce. Medicine was almost gone. And the Valkyrie commander had started executing prisoners in retaliation for resistance attacks. Amy sat in their underground headquarters, studying a map of the colony by flickering lamplight. Peter Grant sat beside her, his face thin from hunger. "How much longer can we hold out?" he asked. "As long as we need to," Amy replied. But she knew the truth. If help didn't come soon, they would all die. Then her radio crackled to life. "Surface forces. This is the coalition vessel Vigilant Star. We have arrived in system with Strike Group 2. Liberation operation commencing in 1 hour. Hold your positions and prepare for extraction." Amy grabbed the radio, her hands shaking. "Vigilant Star, this is Lieutenant Amy Brooks. We read you loud and clear. There are 217 survivors ready for extraction." "Copy that, Lieutenant. Help is here. Just hold on a little longer." Amy looked at Peter. For a moment, neither of them could speak. Then Peter started laughing, not from humor, but from pure relief. "They came," he said. "They actually came." Amy nodded, tears running down her face. "I told you. That's who we are." 1 hour later, the sky above Kepler 442b lit up with fire. Coalition dropships descended through the atmosphere, their weapons blazing. Valkyrie ground forces scrambled to respond, but they were caught completely off guard. Human Marines hit the ground running, securing landing zones and pushing toward the occupation headquarters. Master Sergeant Daniel Price led the first squad into the ruins of Colony, Dome 7. He was a quiet man from Kansas who had joined the military to pay for college. He never imagined he would be leading humanity's first ground assault against an alien. "Enemy. Movement ahead," one of his soldiers reported. Price raised his plasma rifle, a weapon reverse-engineered from captured Valkyrie technology. "Advance with caution. Remember, there are still human survivors in this area." They moved through the wreckage, stepping over debris and bodies that had been there since the first attack. The smell was terrible. The sights were worse. Price felt anger building in his chest, but he kept it controlled. Anger could get you killed. A Valkyrie patrol appeared around a corner. 6 aliens carrying weapons and moving information. "Contact!" Price shouted. The firefight lasted 8 seconds. Human training and human weapons proved superior once again. The Valkyrie fell without landing a single hit. "Clear," Price reported. "Moving to objective." Across the colony, similar scenes played out. Human forces overwhelmed the occupation troops through speed, coordination, and tactics the Valkyrie had never encountered. Within 3 hours, the alien commander surrendered. Amy Brooks emerged from her underground shelter into the sunlight for the first time in weeks. She blinked against the brightness, looking around at the Marines who had come to save them. A young sergeant approached her, a woman named Katie Ellis with kind eyes and a tired smile. "Lieutenant Brooks, we've heard a lot about you. Your resistance made this operation possible." Amy shook her head. "We just survived. You're the ones who came to get us." "That's what we do," Katie said. "We don't leave our people behind." The survivors were loaded onto dropships and taken up to the Vigilant Star in orbit. Many of them had not been off the planet's surface since the attack. Many of them had lost family, friends, everything they had, but they were alive. They were free, and humanity had proven once again that it would fight for its own. While Strike Group 2 liberated Kepler 442b, the other strike groups attacked their targets simultaneously. Valkyrie supply depots exploded. Communication stations went dark. Military bases fell to human assault teams dotted Nexus Prime. Captain Cole and Strike Group 3 fought their way through the orbital defenses and captured the main shipyard. It was the largest Valkyrie military installation in the sector, and taking it sent shockwaves through the Dominion. But the most important discovery came from the shipyard's computer systems. Cole stood in the captured command center, reading a translation of the files they had recovered. His face was pale. "Get me Admiral Webb," he said. "There's something she needs to see." What is it, Captain? Commander Tran asked. Cole looked at her. I think I know why the Valkyrie are so desperate to conquer everyone they meet. And it changes everything. The secret was simple, and it was terrible. Doctor Henry Ross stood before the coalition leadership in the main conference room on Earth, displaying data recovered from the Valkyrie shipyard at Nexus Prime. Admiral Webb, Captain Cole, and dozens of other senior officers watched in stunned silence. The Valkyrie are dying, Ross explained. They have a genetic condition that causes their population to decline with each generation. Without intervention, their species will be extinct within 300 years. That's why they conquer, Admiral Webb said slowly. Not for territory, not for resources, for genetic material, Ross confirmed. They need DNA from other species to stabilize their own genome. Every conquest gives them access to new biological resources. Without conquest, they die. The room was quiet. Captain Cole looked at the display, his face troubled. For months, he had seen the Valkyrie as monsters, cruel invaders who killed innocent people for no reason. Now he understood that they were acting from desperation. It didn't excuse what they had done, but it explained it. This changes things, Webb said. The Dominion isn't just going to stop attacking us because we beat them in a few battles. They literally can't afford to lose. For them, this war is about survival. Then what do we do? Commander Tran asked. Fight until one side is completely destroyed? Cole stood up. There might be another option. Everyone turned to look at him. We have the best geneticists in the galaxy, Cole said. We've solved problems with human DNA that other species thought were impossible. If we can offer the Valkyrie a cure for their condition, we might be able to end this war without more killing. You want to help them? A young admiral named Victor Santos looked outraged. After what they did to Kepler-4 42b, after they killed thousands of our people? I want to win, Cole replied. And winning doesn't have to mean extermination. We can show the galaxy a different way. Admiral Webb was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Prepare a diplomatic mission. Captain Cole, you'll deliver our terms in person. 2 weeks later, Cole stood on the bridge of a captured Valkyrie dreadnought, facing the High Council of the Dominion. The council chamber was vast and intimidating, designed to make visitors feel small and weak. But Cole was not intimidated. He had seen too much, fought too hard, and lost too many people to feel fear anymore. I am Captain Nathan Cole of the United Earth Coalition, he said. I am authorized to offer terms for ending this conflict. The High Counselor leaned forward. His 4 eyes were cold with hatred, but beneath the hatred, Cole could see something else. Fear. Desperation. The knowledge that his civilization was crumbling. Terms? The counselor said, You dare to offer terms to the Dominion. We have 600 warships preparing to destroy your species. You have 512 warships, Cole corrected. We've been busy since we last spoke. And I should mention that 3 of your subject species have already declared rebellion. More will follow. The council members shifted uncomfortably. They knew he was right. Cole continued. Our terms are simple. Complete military disarmament. Release of all subject species. Reparations for the attack on our colony. He paused. And one more thing. What? We're offering our geneticists assistance in curing your condition. The chamber went completely silent. The High Counselor stared at Cole as if he had spoken in a language that didn't exist. You would help us? He said finally. After everything we have done? Cole thought about the burning cities of Kepler 442b. He thought about the colonists who had died in the first attack, the survivors who had suffered for months under occupation, the soldiers who had given their lives to fight back. He thought about Amy Brooks, standing in the sunlight after her liberation, tears streaming down her face. "You attacked us because you were afraid," Cole said. "You thought conquest was the only way to survive. We're showing you there's another option. Take it or leave it, but know that if you refuse, we'll still be here. We'll keep fighting. And next time, we won't be so generous." The council deliberated for 3 days. In the end, they accepted the war was over. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Volcari Dominion no longer existed. In its place was a loose confederation of free species, trading and cooperating instead of conquering and enslaving. Human ships traveled freely through former Dominion space, welcomed as liberators rather than feared as enemies. Lieutenant Amy Brooks received a medal she didn't want and a promotion she accepted reluctantly. She was assigned to the new Galactic Relations Office, helping coordinate first contact with species that had been isolated under Dominion rule for thousands of years. She found the work exhausting, frustrating, and occasionally rewarding. She found that she was good at it. Captain Nathan Cole retired from active duty. He wrote a memoir about the war that became required reading at military academies across human space. He spent his days fishing, gardening, and occasionally giving lectures to young officers about the importance of fighting smart, not hard. Master Sergeant Daniel Price went back to Kansas. He opened a small repair shop in his hometown and never talked much about the war. Sometimes, late at night, he would sit on his porch and look up at the stars, remembering the friends he had lost and the enemies he had faced. He had done his duty. That was enough. Dr. Henry Ross led the team that developed a cure for the Volcari genetic condition. It took 4 years and the combined resources of 12 species, but they succeeded. The first generation of healthy Volcari children was born 7 years after the war ended. Some of them grew up to become scientists, working alongside humans in research stations across the galaxy. Some became diplomats, helping to build bridges between civilizations that had once been enemies. A few even became friends. A Volcari historian named Zethmar, the grandson of Commander Zethrak, spent years studying human culture. He wanted to understand how such a young species had defeated such an ancient empire. His final report was read by billions across the galaxy. "We thought we understood warfare," he wrote. "We thought we understood power. But we had never met a species that was so good at fighting and so wise about knowing when not to fight. They didn't defeat us because they were stronger. They defeated us because they were better. And then they proved it by offering us their hand instead of their fist." He titled the report, "We Thought We Were the Predators." On Earth, in a small park in New York City, a memorial stood for the victims of Kepler 442b. It was a simple stone wall with names carved into its surface, all 2,347. People who had died in the first attack. Amy Brooks visited. And every year on the anniversary she would stand before the wall, reading the names of people she had known and people she had never met. She would remember the fear, the anger, and the determination that had carried her through the darkest days. And she would remember what she had told the survivors in that underground shelter. When everything seemed hopeless. "Help is coming. That's who we are. We don't leave our people behind." She had been right. Humanity had proven it, and the galaxy would never forget.